105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06 here. It's the fourth hour of 4 hours of great morning show programming. Of course, the fun doesn't stop with us, though. Chris Plant will pick it up in just 60 minutes, and then your entire broadcast day. In fact, speaking of your WMAL broadcast day, I am told there is still a limited number of Free Speech Forum tickets still available. It's going to be June 2nd at the Birchmere. Patrice and Julie and I will be there representing O'Connor and Company, but also Chris Plant, Vince Colonnese, and the great one, Mark Levin. Go to WMAL.com/Free Speech Forum and get your tickets now before there. And this happens every time, Patrice. Yeah. We sell out, and we have always sold out this event. And then a week beforehand, people say, hey, where are the tickets? Well, we're sold out.
We're telling you now.
Get your tickets now, please. Thank you very much. Joining us right now is Congressman CORY MILLS of Florida, who has, kind of a busy job being a congressman. He's got a full plate. He's a family man. He's got a lot going on. But he has also made it his mission over the last several years to go where the Biden administration refuses to go and rescue Americans who have been abandoned overseas by the feckless and destructive policies of President Biden and his team. The latest rescues have come from Haiti, and he joins us now. Congressman, first of all, thank you for this incredible effort that you're doing. And I mean, listen, you're putting the right people in the right place to get this done, but you're actually going on many of these trips to save these people. So I really appreciate you doing that, and I appreciate you joining us this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yes, I've been personally on every single rescue. Spoke to every single person, and just happy that I'm able to do more to try and help those who are in need and who are in harm's way.
Congressman, I need you to explain this to me, because I think we've now got 10 U.S. embassies in the last 3 years that have either been fully abandoned and shut down and evacuated or partially done so. And, of course, when that embassy shuts down, the American citizens who are left there are absolutely helpless and abandoned. Why does this keep happening under this administration? I was told the grown-ups were in charge, that the professionals were going to run things now.
Well, I mean, you have to look at the fact that going back to Secretary of Defense Gates, who made the comment that Joe Biden's the only person he's ever met who's been 100% wrong in foreign policy, now you're seeing the impact of that. When you continue to have failed foreign policy going back to 2021 with the botched Afghan withdrawal, going to the release of $10 billion in unfrozen fungible assets to Iran, looking at the unwillingness to uphold sanctions that has also led to the largest oil exportation of Iran, all of those things are allowing things like the malign activities of Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthi rebels who disrupt 12% of commerce, or even in Africa and here in our own Western Hemisphere, the PRC with China and Russia to start ingratiating themselves even in our own Western Hemisphere. And so that's going to cause those geopolitical disruptions. And then ultimately, the problem that he also has is this pattern of abandonment. You know, he left Americans in Afghanistan 21. My team and I went over there and conducted the first overland rescue of a mother and 3 children from Amarillo, Texas. Fast forward to October 7th, you had the horrendous incident that occurred in Israel that cost 1,200 innocent lives. By October 11th, I was on the ground pulling out the first 32 Americans. The next day, 45 Americans. I pulled 255 Americans out of Israel across the border. Other aircrafts from Mexico, the Philippines, and other nations had already flown in and gotten their citizens before I was able to shame this administration into even sending their first aircraft. Now here we are again looking at Haiti, where last week they said, this is an actual spokesperson of the State Department, Miller, claimed, he said, we have no intent or plans to rescue Americans in Haiti. Well, now that I've blown up the airwaves, as I always do, every time I do these rescues to shame them into doing their jobs, now they want to send their first aircraft after I've actually gotten 23 Americans through 2 successful rescues.
Congressman Mills, first off, bravo, and thank you from all the families who I'm sure are proud and happy to be reunited with their American citizens who are left behind by the government. Is there some sort of process change that could be implemented? Obviously not with this administration, but at least with the next, hopefully the next administration, where this doesn't happen, where it doesn't take a member of Congress like rolling up his sleeves, throwing on a flak jacket and jumping in a helicopter to go rescue Americans when the military should be doing this. What kind of process change could be made in advance so that this doesn't happen again?
Well, the first process change is to remove the guy at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing that we need to be looking at is making sure that we have a Secretary of State who understands how to prioritize American lives and safeties. We had things like in Afghanistan where they've done a NEO, which is a non-combatant evacuation order. And that in itself has always been by doctrine that you pull and get the citizens out and then you collapse the actual State Department, then you actually bring out the military. They've done it completely wrong every time. So the policy and the way things are done are in place. The only thing that we could prevent is just the derelict of duty that goes on by the individuals who are appointed into the cabinet.
We're speaking with Representative CORY MILLS of Florida, who is recent off of one of his rescue missions down to save Americans who were stranded in Haiti by the Biden administration, and of course the hearings this week with regard to Afghanistan. You didn't seem very impressed with the retired general's explanations and what appeared to be just finger-pointing back to the State Department. You served in the Army, you were airborne, you've been around the defense industry and the Pentagon for a while. Is that how it works? Is it the State Department that directs the Pentagon on what their military activities are supposed to do, or doesn't the buck stop at 1600?
Well, the buck stops at 1600, undoubtedly. I mean, he's the commander-in-chief, if you will, too busy out there tasting ice cream and smelling children's hair. But my whole problem is that you've literally got to the point where the DOD and the Department of State, whether it be Anthony Blinken or Lloyd Austin, are pointing and looking back and forth at each other, being like, hey, you got this, right? No, you've got it. Oh, wait, you got it, right? No. And the problem is they don't know what their actual duties and jobs and responsibilities are. They were warned long ago that they should have already started this NEO. They waited to the very last minute to try and conduct it, setting this arbitrary timeline of September 11th, which General Milley even said was not only inappropriate, but it was actually, there was no coordination or reasoning for that date to begin with. So it was all political optics. And so what you saw here is when people put political optics above military strategy, it results in 13 heroes losing their lives. And this political football, this blame shifting that goes on, they can do that all day long. I'm fine with it. But whenever they start going, oh, well, I take responsibility for this, responsibility is not the same as accountability.
That's right.
Accountability is resigning or having yourselves impeached for the failures that resulted in the loss of American lives that you could have prevented. These are preventable deaths. You have 13 Gold Star families, to include guys like Steve Nakui, who not only lost his son, but his oldest son, who felt guilty for the loss of it, took his own life at his own as his brother's memorial. Wow. So now you're talking about the impacts that ripple down because of poor leadership, failed policy, and political optics over military strategy.
So to that end, in August, you introduced impeachment articles for Secretary Austin. That was before he went AWOL and was missing in action because he hid whatever health malady he may have had, and then arrogantly basically say, yeah, well, this is a private matter, and I was, no, it's not, and he still won't step down. What does it take? Listen, I think he should be impeached as well. He should resign in disgrace.
Absolutely.
That's what a good soldier is supposed to do. But Congressman, as I mentioned, you've worked in the defense industry. You serve. Now you're serving as a congressman. You know this culture. You know this atmosphere. There is an impression amongst the American people right now that this military and then the defense industry, the spending, the demands for money for various military excursions, even threats from elected officials saying if you don't pay for this new military funding for this foreign situation, then your sons and daughters will be sent to fight this war. It's despicable blackmail. But the American people are starting to feel like they're being railroaded in this sense. And yes, our children's lives will be at stake if this arrogance continues. How quickly can this be fixed? You said we need to change the commander-in-chief. Then what? How quickly can this culture and these perceptions change at the Pentagon?
Well, it can change immediately. Look, the last National Defense Authorization Act I passed over 30-plus amendments, all going towards the ideas of the elimination of DEI. That's the first start. When our military is prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion over increased lethality, readiness, and being properly prepped, then that's already a starting point with failure. Now you've got a commander-in-chief who has no idea what his actual job is and has continued to fail in foreign and domestic policy. You've got a Secretary of Defense who I would argue has been derelict in duty and AWOL even before the medical issue, because when you fail to do your job, when you fail to meet recruitment strategies where we're at a deficit of 41,000 plus the 8,600 that you unconstitutionally purged out of the military for their medical and religious freedoms that they had a right to. And by the way, Austin said something very key. He said, well, my medical stuff is very personal. I said, I completely agree with you, Secretary, which would mean that medical and religious freedoms are also very personal to the individuals that you purged out of the military who refused to take the test vaccination. And so the whole hypocrisy here and the irony of the way that they've handled themselves is not conductive of someone who is fit for office. And so I agree with you. He should have resigned, but at a minimum, we should impeach him like we do Mayorkas for their failures of duty, because Americans deserve accountability. They deserve to be able to understand that when you swear an oath to this office, look, I am a United States Army combat veteran. I spent with my military and government time over 7 years in Iraq, over 3 years in Afghanistan, Kosovo, Pakistan, North Somalia. I was blown up twice by roadside IEDs in 2006 in Baghdad. He's not going to sit before me and tell me about duty, honor, and our oath to office. When he fails to do it, I'm going to hold him accountable. And every time that he stands before me in that committee hearing, you're going to make sure that you can hear exactly what I think about him and his overall duties.
I was on Capitol Hill last week, and there was, or 2 weeks ago, there was a hot debate amongst a lot of staffers there about who's got the cooler beard, you or Stubby. Where do you stand on this?
Hands down, I've got it. There's absolutely. I have actually gotten a little more length and a little more shape into it.
It's true.
I've gone a little more rogue since I'm running all these operations now. So I think that at a minimum, the cool factor of the rescues should already give me a point or two ahead.
So you're saying what I'm hearing here is that Stubby's a wannabe Mills, that he's like late to the game on the beard, and he's just trying to compete with you. He's trying to confuse people. He's like, oh, that congressman from Florida with the beard, what's his name? And he's trying to jump in. He's trying to steal your glory.
It's okay. The guy professional baseball game, to be fair.
All right, that's true. And that's honestly all that matters. Congressman Mills, thank you again.
You so much,
you're
sir.
literally doing the Lord's work, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless.
Let's get to Jamie Whitten now on the Hadid carpet cleaning traffic.